Lowe's knows how to set off your July 4th with savings. Right now, buy one, get one free on select one-coat coverage interior paint via Visa gift card rebate. Plus, get two select 2 or 2.5 quart red, white, and blue annuals for just $10. Hurry, these July 4th deals won't last long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for more details.
If you love entertainment, current events, and Hollywood, don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today we have a special guest.
Hey everybody, this is Jimmy Dixon from the Jimmy Dixon Group.
Welcome. I always like going back to the beginning. I always say at the beginning, chart our trajectory in life. You know, when we're kids, things that our little habits we pick up along the way kind of follow us into our adulthood, which I find fascinating. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? And kind of how did you find your way doing the things that you're doing now?
Yeah. First, I guess before I get into that, I'll just say thank you for having me on the show today. I have listened to a few of the episodes, and I found they were wonderful experiences. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you on your show. I really appreciate it. I guess, for my childhood, I was kind of born on the West Coast, and I guess we were kind of roamers before roaming was a cool thing to do, so we just kind of went from different place to different place. And I guess that experience kind of molded me, I guess, a little bit into kind of some of the subject matter maybe we talk about on some of the songs and some of the records. But we always sort of had not necessarily instruments and things around, but music was an important part of our roaming around. And so that maybe kind of influenced me a little bit as I progressed along. And I didn't really pick up a guitar until I was more in my teenage years, as kind of more of a sign of rebellion, I guess, as the guitar kind of has that symbolism involved with it. So I picked it up then and just kind of discovered other artists that were played kind of guitar-based rock and roll, back to the 50s with your blues rock and roll with Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Willie Dixon, and on into kind of your Chuck Berry and your Bo Diddley, and into your even into the the 60s with your when Dylan went electric, and you have the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, then into the kind of the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And that's kind of the music that kind of influenced my taste in good old fashioned rock and roll. So that's kind of where my roots are, I guess, when it comes to music.
I love that. Were your family supportive of your music endeavors and going in that direction? Because when I was young, I told my family I'm going to be a filmmaker, they were like, okay.
Yeah, I guess we were somewhat free-spirited, I guess, and so they were encouraging of any interest that was shown, in that regard. So yeah, I would say that it was a very supportive, try and make it on your own kind of support, I guess, that kind of support. But yeah, I mean, there was I would say that there wasn't too much pushback when it came to that kind of decision.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's always great. I think when you have supportive family or parents that support you. I don't know. It just makes things easier, and then like, when you do start putting out music, everyone's like, oh yeah, I knew it, like it's
Yeah.
um but I love this new this like, first of all, I put it on the speakers and it just like blew me away. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So tell me about Thin Air. What was the process like making that, and why now? Just curious.
Yeah. Well, the interesting part of the process for the recording of In Thin Air was there was no process, and what I mean by that is we're a bunch of musicians who have sort of had prior lives, so to speak, with other groups and things like that. So we kind of came together a little bit later in our musical journeys, I guess you might say, and we got together in the studio a little over a year ago now, and we were recording some of the songs that you'll find on the record, the Rough Demos record that we put out earlier this year.
Nice.
And we were just warming up, getting ready to record some of those songs, and we just fell into a bit of a groove. It was just a very impromptu, spontaneous session, and the Rickenbacker 12-string guitar just started playing itself, and our drummer got into a nice groove, and the lyrics just kind of came about just as a way to remember the chord progression. And we honestly didn't know if we had everything set, because we were just setting up the equipment and getting ready to record, and we didn't really sure if we had anything, but we just felt like it was kind of really interesting what had happened. I mean, we're not talented enough for songs to just kind of come out of the air like that one did, and we listened back, and we really just kind of loved what we heard. And there's just something, I guess, magical about a spontaneous burst of creativity. And so we actually tried to re-record the song with our equipment set up better and things like that, but you just can't recover that kind of spontaneity and magic. So even though I felt like, as being the vocalist, I'm always self-critical of the vocals. I felt like if I would have known that we had something there, maybe I could have done a better job. But it just really hard to recover sort of that kind of magic when it presents itself. And it's hadn't done it before then. It hasn't done it since then, but we really just loved what we heard, and we thought it was a great groove, and decided to keep that kind of lo-fi recording that we had. We just kind of really dug the groove and the sound.
No, I think, I love that. When I hear stuff like the creative process, like I think sometimes, like you said, there's no process, like you just kind of like riff and let it happen, because I find something magical about that. Like a lot of people have to be nowadays so strategic and write their lyrics down, which is nothing's wrong with that. I think that's great. But you rarely hear about the ones where you just, go into the booth and kind of just go and just let it, flow.
We weren't anticipating it. It was just part of the warm. We warm up our creaky fingers and stuff like that before we try to record, and usually we're just kind of doing our own thing, but we just kind of all fell into a bit of a groove, getting warmed up, and all of a sudden we had a song, and we had no idea that it was even being recorded. We listened back, and we loved it, and said, hey, let's try to record it again, and maybe we can make it better. But boy, it's just something about that. I guess when the song is brand new to a group or a band, there's just something a little bit different about that sound, about the recording. Just it was a little bit lo-fi. We didn't have everything set up, but we kind of thought it fit the song well the way it was.
Yeah, great job. I mean, congrats on that. That's incredible. I love that about the creative process. I always wonder about groups. You hear those notorious, like, groups, like you can go back to, like, I don't know, TLC or Destiny's Child or whatever group band. It could be whatever band, and they separate, and then usually vocalists go and has a long amazing career on their own, because you could just do that. But what makes a good group? What would you say makes a great group? Because,
Yeah, I think there is just something intrinsic about the joy I think the group members get from being part of the music writing and the music recording process. Either you're having a lot of fun together and getting a lot of joy out of the process, or it can be a very just a very mechanical and not a fun process. And so I think you'll find, I guess talent can override everything, but at least for us, our best recordings seem to come when we're all having just a lot of fun together and getting a lot of joy out of being together in the same room and playing the instruments we love to play and things like that. So for us, I think that is where we get our best work out of is when we're having the most fun. And obviously there are bands that don't get along that well, that put out great music, but that's because they have a lot more talent than we do. So we kind of bank on having fun and getting a lot of joy out of the process, and hopefully something good comes out of it.
do you how like close are you when it comes to the creative process? Are you in there with the producer, or do you just kind of like you got like let the producer do their thing? Because I'm very much hands-on in like a lot of areas when it comes to creativity. Like, yeah, I might come and do like directing, but I'll be there in the room like where the editor, like where they're cutting it, and I'm just like sitting there like watching it, and if I give my feedback. But I don't know, what is your, how close are you?
Yeah, we don't necessarily have a producer. We have an engineer.
Okay,
We kind of self-produce.
I love that.
We all get in the room and there's no egos involved, and so we all just kind of bounce ideas. Have we tried this instrument, or what do we think about that, or and we just want to get the best sound out of the whatever song it is or whatever record we're making, and so we're all on the same page when it comes to that. We might have some discussions about what that best sound might be, but in the
Yeah.
end we all are out for the same thing, and that is just having something that we'll be proud of having recorded, and proud of having the ability to share with people at some point. And so
Yeah.
that because of that, we kind of all sit in the room and whoever's there, and just kind of have a discussion about what we're after and how we might get there.
Yeah. What was that discussion like for the I think it was Rough Demons, that was, you said that was released this year. What was that? I mean, what an amazing title, by the way. This is 10 tracks, right? And an album, which is
Yeah.
awesome. What was the goal of that, and what was the through line, like the topic that or what do you like to talk about like when you do
Yeah.
music?
Yeah, the album, the rough demos, you can find, on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we actually, to be honest, we set out. We had, believe it or not, I guess, no intention of recording an album. We got together because we had shared interest in sort of playing music and the shared interest of kind of the roots of rock and roll, and we
Hmm.
just got together and we were jamming a little bit, and it just some ideas came about, and all of a sudden we had 9 or 10 songs that we had made together over some period of time, and decided, what, let's see what they sound like, and if anybody could make a connection to the music, and
Mm.
we had so much fun and joy making the music, maybe that'll show through in the recordings. And so we had just kind of they just kind of had come about through the process of playing together, and I like to sit down with the guitar, the acoustic guitar on a daily basis, and sometimes the guitar is ready to talk to you, and sometimes it's more silent. And so on those lucky days when the guitar is talking, I'd like to write down some lyrics to remember the chord progression and bring it to the group, and everybody puts their stamp on it, and all of a sudden we have a song that's way better than what it was in my head, because everybody
Yeah.
put a little stamp on it. So that's kind of the process. Is a lot of times I'll have an idea, I'll have some little bit of lyrics down and a chord progression, and we'll kind of run it through. Everybody puts their stamp on it, and all of a sudden it's a real song.
I love that. I love that. And I just think I think it's so cool to hear music, and just because I was talking to a friend and we were talking about just like we're in the age of AI and which is great. I'm really grateful for
Mhm.
the time that we're in with that. But a lot of artists are kind of they oppose it. They're not really excited about it because it does kind of take the creativity out of the like how humans can connect to music. We actually connect to the music because it's like
Mhm.
real, strings, a person playing it versus it being in a digital, and you have it already loaded up. You just upload it, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think there's a
Mhm.
difference of like the feeling and you just resonate with the real. How do you feel about, AI and, artists using it in the music world?
Yeah, I am on the side that whatever makes the best, the record sound the best, or however you get the best sound, whatever makes you feel good.
Yeah.
We love playing our instruments, and we have a connection to our instruments, and but we'll use, and then maybe this is an AI, but for somebody like myself who is always self-critical of their vocal performance, I might say, hey, let's try putting a little bit of distortion on the vocal for this track with
Yeah.
the guitar, and think, maybe that'll really make it kind of sit well with this guitar sound that we're looking for. So I did whatever makes the record sound the best and whatever we're proud of.
Mhm.
And for us, it is playing the instruments, but we'll kind of mess around a little bit with some effects here and there to
Yeah.
try and get the best sound. And maybe that's not really AI or not, but uh, we our influences are those kind of guitar playing folks who just sit down and are able to kind of fly up and down the fretboard. So we try and do a little bit of that ourselves, and hope for the best.
I love it. I love it. So I love asking everybody this question, and I always get always interesting answers. If you could have a cup of coffee with any artist, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I think for myself, I would choose an artist who played mostly acoustic guitar, and his name was Nick Drake. He was an English acoustic singer songwriter who was not very famous at all in his day, and only became famous long after he passed away.
Interesting.
But his music, he played a lot in alternate tunings in his acoustic guitars. He would make up his own tunings that
Wow.
even to this day, some people are still trying to figure out exactly how he tuned his guitar for specific songs. And
That's cool.
um, reading about there's no live performance of his out there. He rarely, if ever, performed live, and was very introverted. And I think that would be I think that sitting down with coffee with him, there might not be a lot said, but there would be a lot very interesting, I think, time spent with him, because he had such a. If you listen to kind of our songs, the acoustic side, you'll hear a lot of alternate tunings, and that
Mm,
his was the influences behind that. So a song like
nice.
Peter's Pool, which is the first song on the record, is in an alternate tuning. There's other ones as well. But he would be, I think, thinking about it, that would be the choice I would make.
I love that. It's a great answer. I love that. Um, do you feel like the music world is like obviously every artist, I think, and maybe I could be speaking a little, for myself, but do you feel like it's better and most artists deep down want to be signed to a label versus being independent? Because there's perks to being signed to a
Yeah,
label, and then there's the cons as well.
yeah. I don't know too much about what it's like to be signed to a label, but what I do know is I, love the freedom of being able to do what I want when I want from a
Yeah.
musical standpoint. So, we can pick and choose when we want to record a song and when we want to release an album.
I love that.
We can pick and choose sort of what songs we want to include and what we don't want to include. And so, you know, boy, you know, I'm not saying that independent artists can't make any money doing this, but we are well aware that we're chose a path that is far less likely to be financially lucrative and much more likely to be self-rewarding, because we can make our own decisions when it comes to the music and what we want to play, when we want to play, and where we want to play it, kind of thing. So that's the decision we've made as a group.
I love that.
You know, a lot of us are established when it comes to that kind of the financial kind of thing. So we, you know, we have the luxury of being able to make that decision, whereas I can understand where other people feel the pressure to go a different route. But we're lucky enough where we can choose the path we want to go, and we're really satisfied with that path that we've chosen.
I love that. No, absolutely. I think, you know, I always say you can, you know, I think a lot of, you know, people that listen to the show, when I ask this question to artists, because I really love, like, to me, I always find it, and I think a lot of people kind of feel like that's why they don't do music or get into the, you know, become a creator, because it is difficult, you know.
Yeah.
But if you love what you do, I really do believe that it does open up a lot of doors. Like, and I do believe you can make a great living independently as an independent artist. I feel like it's not widely publicized much. I mean, you see all the mainstream music artists, and they talk more talk about, but there are the people that you don't see that actually also do it, but just on a smaller level, but still can make a pretty good living doing it. So I think that there's just like this misnomer of, like, you know, like you have to have, you know, you got to be a Lady Gaga or you know what I mean, to just and so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So fun question, no wrong answer. One of my favorite questions to ask on the show. Everybody has different answers, and I'm always fascinated with this question. But the 3 levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you could choose only one, which one would you choose and why?
Yeah, I've it's a great question, and boy, it's a tough answer. It's too bad that the fourth one isn't loved, because, you know, we all want to feel loved by our friends and family and things like that, and that's sort of what's important to everybody in this world. But boy, if you looked at the prices of these vintage guitars that we like to play in the studio, you know, it's pretty crazy how much they're going for and what people are paying for some of these 50s and 60s electric and acoustic guitars. So maybe the right answer is money, so we can a few more of our favorite guitars in the studio. But I mean,
it's a good answer.
But you know, those 3, you know, really haven't been all that important, I think, to us as a group. We just kind of want to make a connection with people through our music, and if it's just one person or 2 people, that's great. If it was more, that would be exciting. But we are driven by sort of the joy and love that we have when we're together recording music and making music together.
I love that. I rarely do I hear that answer, and like just not even choosing one, which I feel like is so important too, because I feel like there's, you know, and I know that the noble answer to say is respect, and I respect people that say, yeah, I choose respect. But I think at the end of the day, I think that also is a little bit of ego. I don't need anyone's respect. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like like you said, you just enjoy what you do, and you just want to connect with people, and that's what it should be about, the connection. So yeah, that was a thank you for answering that. That's it. I don't think I've ever heard that, actually.
Oh wow. Okay.
Usually everyone chooses an answer. Like, I give them 3 choices and they just actually choose something. And I think that's interesting, because like no one's actually never chose. So that's awesome. I like that. Um, do you ever have like, in the journey of this artist journey that we're on, um, when you have your downtime, like when you're not really feeling motivated, right? And it's
Mhm.
just not coming. What are things that help you to stay motivated, to have less down days? Because, sometimes, like we were saying, it's not, you don't see it's not an instant gratification. It's like a later, you see this stuff. It takes time to see your work pay off later. But what helps you in the meantime, kind of while you're going through the journey and you're working hard, but you're not even motivated and you're just like, man, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand the question. Um, artistry and songwriting is such a an odd phenomenon. Sometimes it's there, and you
Yeah.
can write two or three songs in a week or two, and then you can go weeks or months with the muse not disappearing, and that's a frustrating period. I found that if I put on a record by Howlin' Wolf or Bob Dylan or
Oh
something like
yeah.
that, and I listen to kind of the lyrics that they're writing, and I listen to a Willie Dixon song or something like that, that's really inspirational to me. I feel like it's something then is just clicks, and I'll sit down the next day and a song or a riff might come. So I just feel like sometimes all it takes is just revisiting the inspiration that was there for you from the beginning, and
Yeah.
just whatever inspires you, whether it's other musicians or art or whatever it is. Everybody has a different inspiration. We
Hmm.
revisit those inspirations. Usually, the muse reappears sometime shortly thereafter. So I found that kind of helps me get through those periods.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Um, so in a group, do you have to, like, say you have an idea and you want to, like, there's an idea that pops in your head and you when it, like when the creative hits you and you want to, do you, obviously you have a topic that you want to like talk about or sing, for a song or an idea. Do you immediately tell your group, like, hey, I feel like we should talk about this, and then you guys got kind of discuss like if this is a good idea, and if you guys are also all in unison on the
Yeah.
idea, then you do it? Or you kind of, have you ever scraped some ideas and they're like, ah, good, and you just have to toss it out?
Oh yeah, yeah, all the time. All the time. Yeah, that there's we have ideas that we start with, and then we decide it's just something's not exactly clicking, and we might revisit them down the road. And
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
there's a couple of songs that we are finishing up recording our second album right now, and there's a couple of songs that we had tried to record for the first one, and it just didn't click, and all of a sudden we tried something different, and we found a sound that we really liked. So we put them off, and we always have them on the back burner. If there's a new idea, we try to meet up fairly consistently, and we'll bring something in, and we'll say, hey, does a piano sound good on this?
Yeah.
Our drummer is always coming up with fantastic grooves for the song, no matter what it is. So we can always count on him to have something ready on the fly. And we just sometimes it clicks, but sometimes it takes a little bit of mulling over the sound,
Yeah.
sometimes you revisit it like 3 or 4, 5 months later, and just that fresh perspective, it just leads to
Yeah.
something that you hadn't even thought of, because you're so frustrated being in the just butting your head up against the wall,
Yeah.
and it just maybe better to move on and revisit it at a later time.
For sure. And I love that. I love that. That's awesome. What advice would you give to the up and coming artist out there, or whoever wants to get into this crazy business that we're in?
Yeah, I don't. That's a great question. I don't know if I have. I don't know if there is a right answer for advice for up and coming artists. I mean, people will tell you to stay true to yourself, or follow your passion, or um, things like that. And I think those are great pieces of advice, but I think everybody has to be self-reflective and have, is this something, for me, writing a song is just something that I have to do. It seems like, it's like eating or breathing. It's just something that, and it's hard to explain why, but it's just something that I have to do and that I love to do. And so I suppose if you are in that same camp and it's just something that is a part of your nature, you should follow that calling. And it's obviously, the toughest challenge is, we want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard. Nick Drake wanted to be heard. Jackson Frank wanted to be heard. And these are artists who weren't heard in their time. And all of a sudden, 20 years after they passed away, their songs have heard. And, it's frustrating to be out there and putting your heart and soul in it and not being heard. But to me, what's most important is, am I proud of the artistry and the work that we're doing, and am I getting joy out of it, and am I having a lot of fun with my bandmates in my group? And that to me is, at this stage in my life, has become what's most important. And so that's where my focus is. And so if you can find that joy out of it, that'll help you through the ups and downs.
Absolutely. That's really great advice. This interview is almost over, but really one quick question, but I always have this question when it comes to artists, and especially when you're putting music out. There's so many people out there that does, music, right? They're doing this, same thing, or maybe the same genre. And are you ever worried about, like, because I feel like a lot of people, there's, as much as we love to do what we do, I feel like there's like the business aspect to it as well that is not really people really don't talk about it much. Mm-hmm. But just from your perspective and being in the music world, how important is copyright and publishing rights to your own music? Because essentially someone can just copy it and take it if it's not copyrighted.
Yeah. I think, I wish I was more of an expert on that side of things. It's extremely important. You can go all the way back to, people were signing bad record deals all through history, 60s, 70s. You can read, about Tom Petty and how he tried to get out of all his contracts in the I think the late 70s or early 80s. And so it's extremely important, I suppose, as an independent artist, there's probably nobody out there that is looking to steal anything of ours, but we have the freedom to kind of to do what we want, when we want, and where we want, and that is that side of it is important to us. And we we probably do it all the wrong way. You can go to our website, Jimmy Dixon, the JimmyDixonGroup.com, and we have all of our songs up there that we just haven't even put out yet for our new album, because we just want to share it with people. So that album will come out in January, but we uploaded it to our website because people were asking if there's any new music out there, and we just thought we'd put it out there, and people can listen to it if they want to listen to it. But that'll be out in January of next year.
Awesome.
But in the meantime, if they want to listen to it, that we think they should go right ahead.
I love that. All about connecting. Love
exactly.
That. I love that. That's beautiful. So people could find you guys on your website. Are you guys on any social media platforms?
Yeah, we do have a sort of a small presence on social. We're not big social media folks. We found a couple of people who are smarter than us to put us on Facebook and Instagram. So there's a little bit out there, but mostly our stuff is on our website, cool. The Jimmy Dixon Group .com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the best with your music endeavors, and even the ones that you're having coming out next year. Super exciting. And thank you again for coming on. It was just a pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you, Meosha. I really appreciate the time that you spent with us and your interest. And it was really an honor and a pleasure to be with you on your show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The honor is all mine. Thank you. And
take care.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time.